20 years ago, it all started with one Spider-Man. Now, there are many, in very different movies. Let's rank all Spider-Man movies. Hello everybody, welcome to a new franchise ranking video by J Mere. And in this video, I'm gonna rank all 10 Spider-Man movies. I already announced it in my latest video, in my flash review, that I was going to do this movie, because we have a new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, and I think that movie was really amazing, definitely one of the best movies of this year so far, and I thought, yeah, let's rank all 10 Spider-Man movies. It was like a good time to do so. So here I am, ranking the Spider-Man movies. And Spider-Man is a superhero movie character. And he's actually one of my favorite superheroes. He's certainly in the top 5, like with Batman, Wolverine, Hit Girl. I really like Spider-Man. And one of those reasons is that I grew up with this character. When I was a kid, Spider-Man was my hero. I was really into a Spider-Man obsession when I was a kid, and since this day I still really like Spider-Man. And through the past 20 years, 21 years to be exact, we have some Spider-Man movies, and they're all very different. Like, it all started in 2002 with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, in which Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man. Then in 2012 they wanted to remake or reboot the Spider-Man franchise. They wanted to start over again, because Spider-Man 3 was not that of a success, so they wanted a fresh start. And they casted Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man in 2 amazing Spider-Man movies, directed by Mark Webb. After that, seeing that was also not a big success, definitely not the second one, they decided to introduce the character of Spider-Man in the MCU. So then we got the MCU Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland. And he also got some solo movies. And meanwhile, we got a new franchise, an animated franchise about Miles Morales as Spider-Man, an animated franchise with Into and Across the Spider-Verse, and next year that franchise will be ended with Beyond the Spider-Verse. So we got a lot of Spider-Man franchises, and for a long time I always saw them as separate franchises. But because of 2 movies, like No Way Home from 2021 and this year's Across the Spider-Verse, we can actually see all those what we seemed as separate franchises as one big Spider-Man franchise. Because in some way and to some extent, all these movies are connected with each other. And that is actually very awesome, that it is one big franchise. So I am here to rank all these movies. And just to, everyone would have grown up with one version of Spider-Man. Is it Tobey Maguire? Is it Andrew Garfield? The new ones are growing up with the MCU Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland. So I grew up with the Tobey Maguire movies. So expect the Tobey Maguire movies high in this ranking list. And just before we started, I'm not including the Morbius movie that came out last year. That was one of the worst movies I saw last year. That was just garbage. I didn't know what they were thinking making this movie. And also, not the 2 Venom movies. I know there are some fans of the Venom movies. Not me. I'm not a fan. I don't know. The Venom movies are just not for me. I think they are just too ridiculous. Yeah. So, I do not include those 3. If I do, they would be at the bottom of the list. I cannot care about those movies. Anyhow, let's get to it. And it's basically a top 10 Spider-Man movies. So at number 10, we have the one movie with Spider-Man I actually did not like at all. And it is Homecoming. This is one of those MCU solo Spider-Man movies. And for a long time I was actually not a fan of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he was actually fine, good when he was in the Captain America movie, Civil War, or the Avengers movie. If he is part of a team of superheroes, I liked him. But when he went alone in his solo movies, no, not a fan. And Homecoming, first of all, it did not really feel like a Spider-Man movie. It felt like an Iron Man movie training a boy into a superhero, that is Spider-Man. That did not work for me. Also, it kind of felt like this teen drama, teen comedy, but in the style of a John Hughes movie. Did not work for me either. And to be honest, this movie was just boring. I had absolutely no fun watching Homecoming. It was actually one of the worst cinema experience I had. I was actually glad the movie was finished, so that's not a good sign. And just above that, number 9, we have Far From Home, the second MCU solo film with Tom Holland. And it is a slightly improvement over Homecoming, but still not my thing. I just not really care for the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. But this was a bit more entertaining than Homecoming. I liked the traveling through Europe. I like Jake Gyllenhaal as the villain Morbius. Also, really nice how the movie ended. So there are good things in Far From Home, but in general, Homecoming and Far From Home, not my kind of Spider-Man movies. Maybe it's your kind of Spider-Man movies, that's fine, I get it. Just not for me. At number 8, we have The Amazing Spider-Man. The first Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. And this movie came out in 2012. And I was a bit disappointed that they wanted to do a fresh start with Spider-Man. Because, like I said, I'm a big Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fan. So, when the news came that they were not going to make more movies with Tobey Maguire, that they wanted to do a new Spider-Man, I was not really that interested anymore in the Spider-Man movies. And so yes, I did not really care for this movie. I saw the movie and it was not my thing either. But I have seen it a couple of times now. I would say it's an okay Spider-Man movie. It has some pacing problems. Certain things in the movie does not really go as smooth as they can. Also the villain Lizard's not that entertaining. And yeah, a bit boring sometimes. What I can give it is that Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, as Peter Parker, is actually a very great casting. He really is that character. So that's one good thing about the movie. Now, these next 7 are actually Spider-Man movies that I really enjoy. And I would watch over and over again. And at number 7, this might be a little shocker, but I have Into the Spiderverse. So the first animated movie of the animated trilogy of Miles Morales as Spider-Man. I think this movie was good. But I don't think it was a great movie. Like, I know there is a large fan group for Into the Spider-Verse. They think it's a very good Spider-Man movie, maybe the best. Well, I can get why people are saying that, but I think it's a bit overpraised. I don't get why there is so much praise for this movie. Like, the movie is good, don't get me wrong. I think it's very entertaining, very interesting story, but I don't think it's that great either. Like, it's very cool that they are focusing on new characters like Miles Morales and Gwen as Spider-Woman. Also, the new Peter Parker in this movie was very funny. Spider-Man Noir, nice addition. But on the other hand, it's not really a Spider-Man movie that I want to watch that often, even how good it is. I sometimes have also problems with the animation style. Some scenes that don't work for me. I'm not the biggest fan of this version of Kingpin either. So there are things that work, things that didn't work for me. Comes at number 7. At number 6 we have a movie I always placed bottom, and that was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I really hated this movie when it came out. That's mostly because the trailer basically spoiled the whole movie. They wanted to do too much in one movie, so they are a bit out of focus on certain storylines. But with a recent rewatch, I actually was very entertained by this movie, and I did not expect that. I think this is the Spider-Man movie where Andrew Garfield is at his best. It's a very interesting story between him and Gwen, because he made a promise to the father of Gwen to keep Gwen safe. I think Dane DeHaan is great as the Green Goblin, great villain. Electro was actually fine. There are some great storylines. Yeah, it's a bit a lot in one movie, but with a rewatch, it was actually fine. But towards the ending, they wanted to tease a bit a lot, and that was kinda annoying. But I was actually surprised by how much I was entertained by this movie, so I had to place it at number 6. At number 5, we have a movie I would have placed higher in the past, but that was just because of the honeymoon phase. And I have to say, the honeymoon phase for this movie was grand. What I mean with the honeymoon phase is when you first see a movie and you think it's really good, you are in a honeymoon phase. Everything is good about that movie. You don't see the flaws. You're really into that movie. But when time goes by, you are starting to see some flaws. You are starting to like the movie a bit less. And that is at number 5. Some of you maybe know what movie I'm talking about, is No Way Home. And I have to say, this is the best MCU movie with Tom Holland as Spider-Man, no doubt. And this is also the movie that I finally liked Tom Holland as Spider-Man. But what I really like about this movie is that this is the movie that brought the 3 Spider-Man we knew, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, together in one movie. And the whole second half of this movie was amazing. The problem is the first half. That feels like typical MCU movie. It's a bit boring, slower paced, not that interesting. So for that I have to place it at number 5. But great second half of this movie. One of the best Spider-Man stuff you're gonna see in this franchise. Amazing movie. So my next 4 are actually the 4 Spider-Man movies I would consider great Spider-Man movies. And at number 4, maybe a new shocker, I have Spider-Man 3. Okay, I know, the movie is very hated. I think it's a bit too hated. Okay, yeah, I see the flaws, I see the issues of this movie, but I just don't really care. I don't think those issues Spider-Man 3 has are that big of a deal. Yeah, the dancing is a bit embarrassing, but okay. But still, big fan of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. I always enjoy this movie when I watch it. I think it's very amazing. Cool characters like Sandman is very awesome. His backstory. Even Venom was cool. Not Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock could have been better, but the creature Venom looked cool. Also liked the storyline with Black Spider-Man, Dark Peter Parker. Was all good. They also wanted to do a bit too much in one movie, but I didn't mind. It was very entertaining, great action. Even like James Franco as New Goblin. So it's maybe not the best conclusion of this Sam Raimi trilogy, but I still think it's a very good conclusion, and I will always watch this movie when I do the Sam Raimi Spider-Man rewatch. So yeah, Spider-Man 3, I think it's an amazing Spider-Man movie. At number 3, we have the first Spider-Man movie, the first live-action Spider-Man movie from 2002 that kicked off the Sam Raimi trilogy. And back in the day, we did not have a lot of superhero movies. Even Marvel was just starting with some movies, like with the X-Men movies, with Blade, and then with Spider-Man. And I think this is the best movie to do an origin story. The origin story was perfect. Willem Dafoe was a great Green Goblin, great villain. Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker was very enjoyable. The whole plotline in which he is becoming Spider-Man, very awesome to see. Yeah, some scenes, especially in the special effects and in the costumes, they did not age well. So for people that have not seen Spider-Man, they would not really get why this was such a big deal back in the time, but it was. It's one of the most important superhero movies back then. At number 2, we have the new one, Across the Spiderverse. The second movie in the animation trilogy about Miles Morales, and I think this movie was super awesome. One of the coolest Spider-Man movies I ever seen. I was really into the story as soon as the movie started, all the way till it finishes. Characters like Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman, fantastic. Great action, it was fun, hilarious, emotional. This movie had it all, and like I said in my intro, it's one of the best movies of this year so far. So, expect it in my top 10 for 2023. Like I said, super awesome movie. But it did not make it at my number 1, because I have a clear number 1. It's one of my favorite movies ever, and that is Spider-Man 2. The second movie directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire in the title character. And this movie is one of the best superhero movies I ever seen. I saw it as a kid. I grew up with this movie. I saw it many times. This movie is just awesome. Everything is perfect. Everything worked for me. Great scenes, very iconic scenes. Dr. Octopus is an amazing villain, and the story arc of Peter Parker in this movie is the best character arc of any Peter Parker in any Spider-Man movie. Guys, I just love this movie, and that's why I had to place it at number 1. I never say never, but I don't think there will ever be another Spider-Man movie that will be better than Spider-Man 2 for me. Spider-Man 2 is my kind of Spider-Man movie. I love that movie so much. So, that was my Spider-Man ranking. I hope you enjoyed your ranking. Always be free to share your ranking in the comments. Would love to read those. Always interested in those. And so, till the next time.